Hello Fleet, and welcome to Captain's Academy, Episode 9, and in today's episode, I'm going to answer this fundamentally important question for all carrier drivers, which is, how do I play carriers effectively? In order to accomplish this, you need to be able to do the following things. 1. Master the basics. Things like manual torpedo drops, proper use of your dive bombers in conjunction with your torpedo bombers, knowing when to commit fighters and when to engage and disengage with your fighters, and also how to properly dodge stuff in your own carrier so you don't get sunk early in the battle when the enemy carrier decides to come and hunt you down. The next thing you have to do is gather intelligence, because when you have intelligence, it helps your team make intelligent decisions. When the players on your team are unaware of where the enemy team is, it makes it really hard to decide where to go at the start of battle. Third, read your map and the flow of battle. Know where your ships are heading, know where the enemy ships are, and understand how a battle will turn out if you leave things as they are. Because that leads to the fourth thing, which is once you know the movement of the enemy team as well as your own team, and the understanding of how a battle will turn out, now you can apply lethal force to deadly effect. Send your planes in, hit an enemy ship, and in doing so, hopefully turn the battle in your favor. But sometimes it's not about doing damage yourself. Sometimes it's simply knowing when to support your own teammates. For example, detecting enemy destroyers and spotting their torpedoes at long range, so your team doesn't get hit by them. Or responding to a scouting request from your own destroyer that's laying in ambush, who wants to know what's coming around the corner. These little things don't exactly net you much damage, but it certainly helps your team win. And finally, keep moving. Too many carrier drivers just have this habit of parking themselves at the back of the battle, thinking that that's where they should be. But the battle line is constantly moving. The closer you are to the battle, the less time it takes for your planes to fly there and fly back. The less time flying around, the more time spent attacking stuff. Having mastery of the basics is really the first step towards success. If you can't hit stuff at all with your torpedo bombers and you don't really know how to defend yourself properly, you're not going to be much good to your team. So let's take a look at some actual gameplay examples, and hopefully I'm able to illustrate this point. Here I've got two waves of torpedo bombers, and I see a battleship pushing quite aggressively down the foreline. So what I'm going to try to do is hit as many torpedoes as possible, and hopefully by taking out a nice chunk of the battleship's HP, I will be able to stop that push. At the same time, I'm really kind of defending myself here against a small enemy airstrike, but I'm not worried as their planes won't have enough damage potential to sink me. And there you go, I had about 7 torpedo hits, and I've taken about 3/4 of the HP off of that battleship, and in essence I've stopped that push in its tracks. Having a firm grasp on the fundamentals as well as really the confidence in executing attacks will also give you the ability to start hitting smaller ships. For example, destroyers and cruisers that are usually harder targets than battleships. So in this particular case, I used my manual torpedo bombers to actually hit a destroyer and actually secure myself a kill as well on that particular ship. Knowing how to play defense is often just as important as knowing how to play offense. That means knowing how to control your ship in a way that will give you the greatest chance of survival. So in this particular video clip, the enemy Lexington has decided to send 2 waves of torpedo bombers at me. And remember, I'm in a big slow carrier myself, and I have to know how to get into the perfect positions to present the smallest targets for their torpedo bombers and force them to change direction. And by doing that, giving my AA the perfect chance to shred them all to pieces. And as you can see, in this particular case, I'm able to defend myself perfectly against the enemy's torpedo bombers, as they don't even manage to get off a single torpedo at me, as all of their planes get shot down. Gathering intelligence is also one of the key roles of a carrier, especially at the early stages of the game. So in this particular battle, I'm quickly sending one of my fighters to the 7-8 line to take a look to see where the enemy team is starting to move. And as you'll see very quickly, my fighter is going to detect the majority of the enemy team's cruisers heading in this particular direction to the 7-8 line. Now, knowing this, and also realizing that the enemy battleships are not heading this direction, allows me to decide which direction to send my torpedo bombers. And of course, it's either engage a whole bunch of cruisers, which can maneuver, or target a few slow battleships that are unescorted. So of course, as a carrier driver, you know where I'm going to start heading. As a carrier driver, always spend your time to analyze the map a little bit. Well, in this particular battle, I'm not really going to be contesting the cruisers at the 8 line, plus we have cruisers and battleships there already. But the 1, 2, 3 line is where things are quite interesting. They have one sole cruiser at E3, well, we have a battleship and cruiser at F3. They have a battleship all by itself at the C3 line, and the nearest support to them is a battleship at D5. So what I will be thinking about right now is, how is this battle likely to unfold? Well, I'm expecting that the battleship and cruiser on my team at F3 will take out their cruiser at E3, which means that the only other ship that can offer resistance is their battleship at C3, and of course, once I know that, you'll understand what I do next. Once you've decided on which target you want to attack, now's the time to apply lethal force to it. So what you're going to try to do is to do maximum amounts of damage possible, either crippling the ship, making it an easy kill for the rest of your team, or you outright sink the ship yourself. In this particular case, I get off a perfect wave of torpedoes, and I absolutely nail this Congo. What I've effectively done is opened up the 1, 2, 3 lines for my team's battleship and cruiser to rush towards the enemy spawn. Sometimes though, it's not all about doing damage in a carrier. Sometimes it's about supporting your team by knowing where to go to actually give them help. In this particular battle, I have two options. I can go north and support my team there, or I can stay south and support my teammate here. Well, north has a lot of ships, and I don't really think they need that much support from me. But south, we have one cruiser that was fighting 3 ships. Now luckily, this cruiser did manage to take down one of the enemy cruisers, but there's still 2 destroyers and another enemy cruiser that's a little further back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my planes in this area, and I'm going to keep these destroyers spotted, and not only that, but also spot their torpedoes, so they will not hit my cruiser at long range. Even though in all this I get no damage whatsoever, I'm at least able to help my cruiser stay alive. The last thing that you have to keep in mind constantly while you're playing a carrier is your relative position to the battle line. If you're sitting so far back or you're hiding in a corner, you're really ineffective as a carrier, because your planes will take forever to fly to target and it takes forever to fly back. If you look at both this battle and the next battle that I'm going to show you, take a look at where my position is at the end of the battle. I am still relatively close to the enemy team. Once again, in this battle, take a look at where I am near the end of the battle. I'm still far enough not to be threatened by enemy surface ships, yet I'm close enough to be able to recover my planes quickly and send out another strike. This part of carrier play does take quite a bit of practice, as it's not easy to always know where you're going to be able to stay safe and yet at the same time be close enough so you can execute the maximum number of strikes per game. That's all folks for this episode of Captain's Academy. Hopefully I've been able to shed some more light for you on how to play carriers, and hopefully some of these ideas will help make you a bit more effective on the battlefield. Just remember that to get really good at anything takes lots of practice and experience. So best of luck to all of you. If you enjoyed what I'm doing, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I hope you all have a very pleasant day, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on the high seas.